Casie versus Pavel is about to get underway. Right now, Pavel sits at 0-3 during the regular season versus Casie, and an important match for both of these two, where for Pavel, it's a chance to sit himself pretty securely in that third-place spot, and for Casie, it's a chance to break the trend that he's had so far, which is going even in this season of Grandmasters. He sits at 5-5. Casie has talked at length about some of his luck, I would say, on Twitter, where last week he took a pretty big beat to Jarla in a Warrior Mirror match where Jarla was able to discover and win with a Mechathune despite the odds against him. So for Casie in this one, I've talked with him a lot personally. He's, again, expressed his opinions a lot on Twitter. I think this is the match, if he's going to make playoffs, that he needs to win, I think, from just his own mental headspace.
Casie is definitely one of the people that has that inner fire where he really, really, really wants to win. That's why he's in GM. I mean, last year he just blew people out of the water. He was one of the most consistent players. I think here he's got what it takes to prove himself.
Yeah, and so we can take a look at their lineups across that's happening here as well. For Pavel, he's had his Priest protected, and he's had his Druid banned away, which means that he's got Priest, Warrior, and Mage. He's kicking things off with the Mage here. Casie protected his Druid prior to the match. He had his Warrior banned away, and so he's kicking things off with the Druid, has Shaman and Priest to back this up. And so as we start things out, Quest Druid for Casie taking on the Reno Mage from Pavel. We've been seeing Reno Mage creep up a bit in European Grandmasters. It's a lot more played this week, but we've been seeing it kind of get banned a lot.
Orange said that he cannot believe that more people aren't bringing Mage. He thinks that it's one of the decks that is like one of the top 4 decks to bring, and it's just criminally underrepresented.
He's brought it again this week.
That makes sense if that's his opinion about it. Casie,
what's your opinion about it?
My opinion about it is that I did not bring it this week. But
No
that doesn't mean
further
that's bad.
comment?
Yeah, well, it could be like the 5th deck,
I've played a lot of 5th decks.
Yeah, they're 5th decks. They're all right.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Things are slightly better, though.
What's your take on this matchup right now? Casie on Quest Druid, taking a look at his top end. He does have Chef Nomi and King Phaeris with at least the Enlightened. So a little bit less early game than he had last week. He had 2 copies of Power of the Wild.
Interesting.
I think that Mage is not a deck that really pressures in the early game. So for Casie, I imagine the strongest cards are going to be the same things that you see versus Warriors. So Nourish, for example, is probably almost lights out. Crystal Merchant as well is just a really fantastic card in this matchup. It requires so many resources for the Mage to invest to actually kill it. And if they don't kill it, they lose. Here, like...
Whoa. They lose or at a disadvantage?
At a very large disadvantage.
Okay.
And when you have very large disadvantages, that means you lose more often than you win.
Okay. But it doesn't mean you lose.
It doesn't mean that you lose.
Yeah.
But it means that you're getting there.
You're well on your way.
Sometimes games end, and someone wins and someone loses.
Yeah.
The person with a Crystal Merchant play for 5 turns. Probably thumbs up.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Well, Pavel's got access to Zephyrus. Looking at Doomsayer. Doomsayer versus Oasis Surger, though, not necessarily the spot you want to be in. Casie completed quests thanks to an early Innervate.
Yep.
On turn 4.
Pretty critical for contesting this Doomsayer. I think from Pavel's side, the Zephyrus is okay, but again, it's just one of those very large resources that having to use it so early, not really what you want to do.
Coin Zephyrus.
Probably trying to get an Edwin here.
That's what it seems like. Edwin's usually offered when you cast 2.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
One of the really cool things about Zephyrus is that it's an elemental. So like on turn 2, you just have Coin, Elemental Evocation, Zephyrus, Edwin.
Look at that pickup from Casie as well.
That was fantastic.
I'm kind of worried for Pavel. I mean, he played right directly into this on turn 5. And so I see his thought, Oasis Surger is going to be the best one. So I want to make that a weak play of my opponent. However, if the cost of that is making their Starfall strong, are you happy or are you upset with that? Because, Pavel did see a Starfall out of this, but my goodness, that can't have been what he was looking for.
I mean, I think really just the important part of this game for Casie specifically was that Innervate on turn 1. It just shows you how powerful early quest completion in Druid is.
Interesting.
Innervate is literally 0 mana, do nothing except increase your quest by 1 turn. But here, we protected our 1/4. Casie has a 3/5 in play. Without that Innervate, none of that would have happened.
Yeah.
And,
it's like a weird wild growth effect.
Yes. And Casie, or Pavel's now in a really tough decision point. He has to say, oh, hopefully there's no Oasis Surger, Starfall, Wrath.
Well, I don't like saying that.
That's a lot of cards.
That's a lot of cards.
Get complacent.
Also no Nourish, because if Nourish is there too, just...
Ooh.
Perhaps.
So in other words, Pavel's in a tough spot.
He's at a disadvantage, as you'd like to say. If someone has lethal on board, you just say, oh, wow, they're at a big disadvantage.
That's different. That's very different.
Okay.
Prioritizing the Crystal Merchant rather than the attack, I think, wise.
I think it just makes a ton of sense here. Did you see how Casie had no play that turn, and he's going to have no play, or no significant play for the future, based on the fact that the Crystal Merchant died? Clearly there's an Oasis Surger, which is a big play, but again, it's not like he's getting that overwhelming value every single turn.
Yeah. It's I'm wondering how important of a role this Oasis Surger drawn right now was, because for Pavel, I think he has a pretty clear image in his mind that if it's not one of the next 2 cards, it means that Casie does not have an Oasis Surger.
I think Oasis Surger is important because it's going to force out action from Pavel. That's really what you want to do as Quest Druid a lot of times, is just play enough stuff where your opponent's, I really have to Flame Strike this turn, or Blizzard, or Frost Nova, for example. If you can do that without using that many resources, that is where you want to be in the matchup. I think the same thing is true for Holy Wrath Paladin as Quest Druid. If you can just like play 2 Oasis Surgers and not use your King Feoris, and they have to Shrink Ray it, you're killing.
Oh, boy.
That is a pickup.
That is a huge draw for
Quick
Pavel.
math for you. 10 equals 10.
Thanks, Gallon. Pro tip.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Without that draw, I think Pavel was in trouble. And now with that draw, I think Casey's in trouble because I'm looking at a Barista Lynching on this Reno the Relicologist.
That's big. We can also Barista Volpera Scoundrel here. It's a little bit concerning that Casie has a Scenarios next turn, but the Reno the Relicologist should be pretty good against it.
I'm gonna win big.
Call that little 2-3 Gallon, just saying that they're going to win. They're just calling their shot.
They're going to win big.
Hashtag big win.
Yes. Thank you, Pavel.
No, well, that's just the correct
It's also
call.
the correct. Yes.
So something that I've noticed a lot is that in European Grandmasters, players have moved largely away from including Aeoxron's Puzzle Box in their deck. Sottle and I have discussed at length what we think about that. We think it's a bad idea. The card is a losing win rate card, but it's a card that you only play when you're losing. That's the whole purpose of it, is to bring you back from situations where you otherwise cannot win the game.
If you could shuffle, if you could play a card that says you play it and you win 30% of the time,
sounds great.
You actually would really want to run that. There's going to be a lot of games where it says, oh, I have 0% to win. This one gives me 30%.
Excellent Doomsayer here from Pavel, I think. His board's weakened. It's not substantial. Use the Doomsayer to try to buy back initiative and keep your power plays rolling. Power Creation, Caligos, Archmage Antonidas. Take your pick here, Gallon.
Puzzle Box, Swarm of Locusts, into Stormbringer. And a Myers Unstable Element.
How about a Caligos and a Luna's Pocket Galaxy?
That sounds a bit better.
Or Power Creation.
Yeah, that sounds a bit better.
I think that he's past the Luna's Pocket Galaxy power spike point.
Mm-hmm.
That was a mouthful.
That's a lot of words. I wonder if you're ever supposed to take Evocation for your... We haven't gotten the Casie clap yet.
Well, is it a Casie clap scenario? I think Pavel played this game pretty well. He ripped a Reno, which was super fortunate for him.
I think without Reno being drawn, Pavel probably loses this game, just based on how the draws would have gone. Like, if the Reno wasn't there, Pavel just probably didn't have the answers.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't think he played this game poorly.
Well, it also shows the power of bringing Reno Mage. Like, you have some really powerful tools. Zephyrus and Reno, the Relicologist, showed why they were important this game.
Casie not out of it, but certainly at a disadvantage. This Reno, the Relicologist, may have something to say about that, though.
Casie still is on a draw to get back in the game. Nourish is so vital.
Yeah, that's really been the missing puzzle piece for him this game.
Yeah. He's had some pretty good tempo tools, but remember that Nourish would have just done that, plus draw 2 extra cards, plus cycle through the deck to complete your Nomi, plus activate your Elise, plus activate your Zephyrus.
I got a tempo
plus draw
turn
towards
for
the second Nourish. So yeah, Nourish is a pretty good card in the matchup.
I got a tempo turn for you.
I really want to see this Conjurer's Calling come out. Yes!
Big stuff.
Biggest minion, all face.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest one.
Oh, the biggest minion here is a 6/6.
Casie staring down 24 on the other side.
25 with the ping. We could...
Oh, man, he's super dead. He's going to try his dangest, but...
I think if Pavel picks up a cheap spell here, it's pretty much all but over.
I mean, what card in the deck was bad? Everything looked good at this point.
You could draw nothing. You could draw like a rock for the rest of the
Seriously.
game. Yeah.
Like you could just draw one of like the fatigue ticks and win from this spot.
Flame Leviathan that only hits you in the face for 10. And you probably still
well, if he takes 10, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, don't puzzle box.
Might be a bit much.
Reno is a heck of a card.
It's just a double Dynamatic that hits everything.
Oh my gosh, that is what it's like.
Yes. It's really good.
I was trying to figure out why I liked Reno so much because I really don't like it.
You ever play Dynamatic and think, wow, if this thing had twice its effect, it'd be a pretty good card?
No, because usually it blows up the whole board.
Because it's already really strong.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. Makes sense why I did. Casey's not going to think about it any longer. Pavel 1-0 in this series right now. And for Casie, man, I'll tell you what, he's had some pretty rough times as far as the luck of the draw is concerned. I think in a lot of spots he's been getting the worst end of it. But that's the situation you have to go through when you're playing against other people who are just as good as you are. Like, and when I say just as good, I mean close in skill, whether it's above or below, doesn't even really matter. Everyone in Hearthstone Grandmasters is tough.
Yeah.
And we've heard players talk about it too, and I think this is a great way to phrase it, which was you can play better than everybody else in Hearthstone Grandmasters, and you can still walk away in last place in the bracket. Like, Casie has been having some tough spots in front of him, but this is part of that game, is having that mental perseverance to push through those tough spots and still look for your edge.
Yeah, I mean, everyone here has a fighting chance against everyone else. Like, these are the best players in the world, for good reason.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I wanna bring up that point real quick about playing better than someone else. I feel like Hearthstone is a game where someone always says, oh, I played better than that person, I deserve to win. Sometimes the game isn't about playing better than someone, it's about playing the best. You know, the best player is the best for a reason. It's not because they're better than the other player, it's because they're better than everyone.
Yeah. It's a very skill-intensive game that does not necessarily mean it's a skill-rewarding game simultaneously. You got to hunt those down, and again, that perseverance. It's to make the same play, even if your outcome is bad, because you know that typically the outcome is favorable. We got to go to a quick break, but when we come back, we're jumping into Game 2 of this set. Right now, Pavel off to a 1-0 lead and looking to secure himself third place in his division. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to Around the Fern. I'm Nathan Zamora. That's Admirable, you can call me, and I'm joined today by a very special player. Please state your name.
Christos Tsakopoulos.
I thought it was Fino. Like, I've always called you Fino at tournament.
Well, yeah, people call me Fino, Feno, Fenomeno, whatever you want to
Okay,
go with.
well, you got to. I think you need to pick one of them, though. It's not just Fenomeno
Let's
or Fino.
go with Feno. Let's go with Feno.
Feno.
Yeah.
Okay. You're happy with that?
Mm-hmm. I think it will be easier for you.
So where are you living right now, and what's that like? What's that like for you in Hearthstone?
Yeah, now I'm just living in Greece with my parents. We have a really big apartment, and on the first floor, there's like a movie theater that my dad
Like
operates.
like you guys make movies there?
No, there's no movie making in the movie theaters. You just show the movie.
So like you just show them other
yes,
people?
people come and they can watch the movie in the movie theater.
But you don't make them.
No, we don't make them. We get the movie and we show the movie in the
I
theater.
thought the whole point of the movie.
Just sell tickets, we don't make movies, and people come and watch the movie.
Okay. Well, I get. Let's just agree to disagree on that. Fenomeno, Fino, Feno, whatever you want to call it.
I'm done.
But we're in an interview.
My name is Kevin Casie. A Grandmaster means to me that the last year of 2018 was a success. After having so much tournament success and getting to Grandmasters by most of the time just gaining points, gathering points and just performing well in tournaments means that I did something right. My goal was to get to the highest level of competition, and Grandmaster is the highest level of competition, and I achieved it, so I'm super happy. What I'm really good is at playing of muscle memory. So at the start of any meta game, the first week, I figure out the best decks, but I play them pretty poorly. So I just keep playing them till I actually know everything. And this is just, preparation is key. I don't only like Hearthstone, I love it, it's my passion. My life, like, it changed a lot since I started playing Hearthstone. I used to be really, really shy.
Really?
Yes. And then, like, after Thais, Crane talked to me, I just got a confidence boost. And from there, I changed quite a lot. Try to be the best what I can get out of myself, and then I'm gonna be happy.
Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters for Europe. We're amidst match number 1 right now, where Pavel is up a game over Casie. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, joined by Edward Gallon Goodwin. And Gallon, you're playing in Americas tomorrow and Sunday. You're casting Europe right here and right now.
Well, we've got a match coming up, which is one that I would not want to be in, which is Priest versus Shaman. We've got combo Priest against Quest Shaman. It's a difficult matchup.
Okay, well, I agree it's a difficult matchup, but walk me through it. Because in Europe so far, we have been seeing a lot of, I'd say, bad matchups for the opposing Priest side actually walk away with wins in Grandmasters here in Europe.
My problem with it is that Priest can set up so many nightmare scenarios for a Shaman. Stuff like Amit that can't be dealt with, an early Cleric into a bunch of follow-up threat like Intertolvir Circle of Healing. There's so many hands that a Priest can have where the Shaman just says, oh, I need to Plague Murlocs off this Ethereal Lackey or I just lose. And they play their Ethereal Lackey, they don't get the Plague Murlocs, they just lose.
Sounds to me like the Shaman needs to get ahead.
Yes, they need to be on board very quickly. Casie has a pretty decent hand for doing that. Double Sludge Slurper is one of the better hands you can make in this matchup.
Looking for some good lackeys. Looking for some good lackeys. Okay, that was pretty good. Yeah. And for Pavel, choices. Choices abound.
The first thing that I would look at is you can just silence the totem. It lets you play an Acolyte of Pain here without giving them a lackey. There's a lot going on this turn.
There's 2 lackeys on the other side, though. You got to think about all the outcomes. You could also just bump the totem.
You could just kill it.
What is Elun's will?
Acolyte of Pain makes a lot of sense here. Just play your biggest thing.
To me.
And with Priest, you're not looking to trade straight up. You're looking to trade favorably. But you got to think about the lackeys.
Yep.
What if Casie got a Kobold lackey?
I think here, you're not really that upset about a Kobold lackey. I think the ones you're most upset by would be something like Titanic lackey plus Goblin lackey, where you buff up the 2/1, get a value trade against the 2/3. That is where you're not that happy as Pavel. Kobold lackey alone kills your 1/2. Whatever. You got to trade off your Acolyte. You got to draw some cards. You got to continue your game plan. That's really what it's about. If you can set up places as a Priest where you just continue doing your game plan, you're fine with it.
Make them have it.
Yeah.
Pavel's not. He says this 1/2 is useless.
That surprises me.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at Casey's hand right now, and it makes a lot of sense.
I think that you set yourself up to be in a nightmare scenario versus very, very, very specific lackey combinations. I'm thinking like 1 in 5 plus 1 in 5.
Well, there's 6 lackeys, right?
1 in 6 plus 1 times 1 in 6. That's not very likely.
No, that's not very likely at all. I kind of like the trade, honestly. It made a lot of sense. Like, Kobold Lackey's going to pick it off, and then your opponent still has the 2-1 in play. It just looked good to me. Like, so for my game plan for
go a
Breeze,
step further with that logic, right? If the Kobold Lackey picks it off, right?
yeah,
We get a Trader Accolade of Pain into the 1/1. Draw a card, play a Wild Pyromancer, play a spell, kill his stuff, draw some cards. The long-term game plan, it's totally fine for him to kill a 1/2.
okay. Let's just agree to disagree.
Is Elun's will.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that Pavel's going for this Interfire. I mean, you just mentioned Wild Pyro and something. I was looking at the silence from the Wild Pyro side.
Ooh, that is a big pickup.
Yeah, Amit's usually pretty good.
In the light.
Here you could even make an argument for not playing your Light Warden. You could always you could do something next turn like High Priest Amit plus Light Warden, which gives you a 1/7 and a 2/7, which is something that Shaman has a really difficult time answering.
Yeah. Something that I'm looking at for Pavel's side is just how do the next couple turns roll out. And the one that comes to mind for me is that Casie needs to just spend stuff to battle for board. And so you want to be set up to fight against that board the most adequately.
He's got the perfect lackeys to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at double Kobold Lackey here. That is the nightmare scenario for Pavel.
Pavel doesn't draw 1-drop. It's just Amit. Can Casie fend off just Amit? I'm looking at Mogu. I'm looking at Mutate.
By the way, just Amit is freaking powerful. It's good.
I mean, there's no question about it. This is the card that made Priest.
Yes, that among other things. But High Priest Amit is a card that says, answer this or you die.
I see a dark future.
That being said, lots of classes can answer it. Shaman, though, is not really the one that does a good job of it.
Well, this is about as good as answer you're going to get.
Casie does not run Earth Shock.
0 copies.
He does not run Plague of Murlocs.
0 copies.
Seems like this Amit is going to live, and Pavel has 3 minions he can play next turn.
Well, maybe Casie has something to say about that. Is there an 8-drop with Rush that kills this?
There is. There's one that kills it.
Go on.
It is Walking Fountain.
It's not that one.
That is not a Walking Fountain.
That 214 looks pretty good right now, but I am looking at Cycle Pump and Silence.
Wow.
I am very concerned.
That is good.
I'm
All Pavel
very
has to do-
concerned for
All
Casie.
Pavel has to do right now is there's no more lackeys left in Casey's hand if he's been keeping track of it. He just has to keep his minion count below 4. Which, when you have things with 9 health, it's pretty easy to do. I'm actually kind of surprised that he decided to go for this instead of just playing a Psycho Pump. I feel like Acolyte was really good here. Light Warden was really good here.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about this too. This tells me he wants to play the Nephroset Ritualist.
Yes, he wants to take a value trade on the 2/2, play an effort set, get up to 2/9s.
Yeah, and it's important for Priest to dominate the board for a number of reasons.
Let's be clear, that's not a bad play at all. You played 2/2, you played a 2/7. That's a lot of 2s. You played a 2/7 and a 2/9 this turn, and you killed a 2/2. Things are going well.
It's important for Pavel to keep track of board because Casie has a copy of the Stormbringer in his deck.
Yeah.
He's not capable of playing it next turn. However, you need to think about the future.
Yep.
And in this spot, kills the Lackey, thinking about specifically Weaponized Wasp.
Yep. I don't even think Weaponized Wasp is that bad for you, though. What you want to be doing is just playing for board, right?
Witchy Lackey.
10 drop.
Oh, it's so big.
That kills an Amit.
That could kill a lot of stuff. And right now...
Oh. So, there's some things to keep in mind. Remember that Pavel can always go something like heal his 2/7,
boy.
Wild Pyromancer, Inner Fire, his 2/9. He's just going for it.
Let the pain speak.
Casual 1/9
That is
Reborn
big.
Acolyte. That means Pavel's got some card draw coming. But for now, he's got a ton of minions loaded up. And what that means for Casie is that Mind Control tech is on deck. He's losing a significant portion of his board. This Mind Control tech has to deliver. Because Pavel's delivering something of his own.
Pavel's giving Casie a good chance added. If he goes face, that's a 1 in 3. Casie could even up his odds by trading off the 2/6 first to make it a 2 and 5.
I don't know if you want the taunt or not. And Pavel's really thinking about bashing this Mecha'thun. Just a big minion. 9 damage is a lot, though.
This MC Tech has to... Oh, Moga Flesh Shaper?
I think Casie wants the taunt.
Engaging TC-130 into
Doesn't get it.
dislocator.
Gets the Amit!
There we go.
And that could potentially be disaster for Pavel.
Right now, Pavel's on a spell draw to make this game go lightning quick. If he can chain spells and draw cards off this Acolyte of Pain, we could easily see him just have lethal this turn.
Of course it's the right way.
That's a pretty cute combo.
No spell.
No spell, we can draw a card off this Acolyte of Pain.
Yeah, Pavel, I think, needs to get moving because if he draws a spell, things
It's
can go
quick.
crazy. Northshire Cleric would work. But not that manner.
That's not the one.
That's not the way to
It
get
draws
that
a lot
Northshire
of
Cleric.
cards, does not kill your opponent.
And I think Casey's about to get a stranglehold on this position.
He can trade off everything, have a sizable board lead at the end of it. Sizable is an understatement.
I got you.
Is it?
It's really funny how Amit just like works for the other player too.
Well, when you steal it, yeah.
It's just cool. One of the things I like about Amit is that it's also, if you make it like a 2/1, it's also just ugly.
Oh, you still got quality on curve.
Yeah, and there's my cleric's a 1/1 now.
Oh my goodness.
I've made the mistake so many times of having like a 2/4 Amit and then just playing an injured Blademaster, and the Blademaster just kills itself.
Shutterwalk drawn.
Keep control of the board. Oh, I think he might just have lethal this turn.
Oh yeah, he definitely
Oh,
does.
it's way over.
That's way over. Wow. You want to talk about an MVP card.
MC Tech in that matchup when your opponent just gives it to you.
Well, I mean, did Pavel had like a strong option for counterplay there though? Like his hand started to grow thin, and I feel like he needed to do something.
I feel like he did. At the very end there, did you see how he had 2 minions that could attack with 2 damage, and he had his Amit as follow-up. And then that was like the left side of his board, and the right side of his board was just a bunch of other stuff. It was like an Acolyte, a Wild Pyromancer. I wonder if he could have just traded all of his stuff away, be left with a Wild Pyromancer and Acolyte. So you still have the game plan of A, you're fighting for board, you got a bunch of 8 health minions. B, if you draw a spell, you're just going to win that game because you're just going to keep chaining draws over and over again.
I guess what are the implications of that? Like I was pretty in favor of killing off the Mecha'thun. Like we already got the value from Amit, right?
Well, you could either kill off the Mecha'thun with just the Amit and leave up 5 minions, or you could kill off like a bunch of stuff, go back down to 3. And I think going back down to 3 makes a lot of sense when you already have such a sizable lead.
What
Like,
about being at 4? Like, could you trade off 1 minion and then trade off the Amit?
yeah, but then you're kind of worried about the mind control tech stealing your Acolyte.
It's like, what's the point of giving them a minion if I can just give them 0?
I don't think an extra like 2/9 in play is really what's going to win that game.
So his big deviation point was on that particular
yeah,
turn.
and I mean he got punished for it a little bit unlucky. Like it was a 1 in 3 for the Amit to be stolen, but you could have avoided that.
Yeah, but still 67%. I mean, I like taking those odds.
Pretty good odds.
Could you get better,
Just
though?
wondering if you could get better.
Oh, it's hard to really realize that. Goodness. I mean, I said it too. Like, we continue to see the bad side of the matchup, or what is perceived as the bad side of the matchup, pick up wins versus Priest in Europe. We saw Druid in last week to finish off the broadcast. He went back-to-back versus Priest. Quest Druid won both the games. We've seen Bunny Hopper yet to lose a game on Quest Shaman at all, regardless of the matchup. You know, we've been seeing so many players overcome the disadvantage, and I think in this one, it's another example of it. Like, Casie fought super aggressively for board, and then got the payoff by having a timely mind control tech.
Yeah, I mean, Priest is just one of those decks where there's so many options on any given turn, and it's not one that lets you lay back a little bit. You know what I mean? There's some decks where you can play a little bit underneath perfection, and it'll be fine. You know, like Reno Hunter, if you play your Brand on curve, you're probably winning the game. But with Priest, there's just so many different points where it could just be a failure based on like what outcome you take. And you
Yeah.
have to think about so many things.
It's a very powerful deck, but a very difficult deck.
Yes, it's a very punishing deck.
Yeah. I do feel that way too, like that your decisions are like magnified. in your face. It's like, you know, your plays, they carry a lot of weight because your deck is so powerful, but as soon as you lose that board, that's gone. Like, you have to have an iron grip on what's happening in play.
Yeah, it's one of those decks where I like the term option paralysis, where there's just so many things that a player could do on a certain turn, and they're all really good, and they just wait until the rope starts burning.
You see why I like Druid now?
You draw like 7 cards and the turn's already over.
Yeah, no, I've experienced that too. Like, there's so many things to do. I see so many good things to do that my head is like trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, and I'm like, there's too many good things. I got to pick one and start going.
Do you remember like the APM Priest? Someone made like a topsy-turvy APM Priest simulator where it did all of the stuff. Like, you could set up like the board of Voidwalkers or Annoyatrons or whatever. Someone needs to make like a hard Priest turn simulator. Just a bunch of options.
Tough Priest simulator.
Yeah, just like tough Priest turn.
Well, Pavel's playing his own tough Priest simulator right now. It's game 3 versus Casie.
I would say in a favorable matchup. I think you want to be on the coin as Priest against Quest Druid.
Casie opts for the turn 1 Worthy Expedition. I like this.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You want to set yourself up to be able to deal with a Cleric if it comes down. You just give yourself another chance at getting a Wrath. And if you think about it, you're not completing the quest anyways on turn 1, so it just makes sense to play the Worthy Expedition. Specifically for that Wrath.
Casie, a player who plays very fast, but practices a ton. And that's been a very important factor to his success, is that he needs to get in the reps and have the muscle memory. So when it comes tournament time, he's relaxed.
You know he's been in this spot a dozen times, if not more. Yeah. Like this specific spot.
Right. It's the Worthy Expedition. If you find Wrath, can check Northshire Cleric.
Yeah.
We heard Tyson in his interview talk about the matchup a bit, and he said, honestly, completing your quest, not your #1 game plan versus Priest. It's killing the priority threats and then making the most of it afterwards. So if you complete your quest turn 7, turn 8, whatever, just make sure you don't die.
A lot of times if you try to complete your quest, you will just you just won't be able to contest the board. If you let things like Cleric and Light Warden live and just develop and hit you in the face a bunch, yeah, you can cast your Nourish, but you're going to be taking 18 the next turn.
I don't like taking 18.
You got to kill the stuff, worry about the quest later.
Yeah, I want to not take 18. How do I do that?
Not completing the quest.
Okay.
I think there are some hands where it does make sense. Like if you got an Innervate on the play,
Perfect draw.
That's about as good as it could possibly get.
What would be better?
I don't have an answer for that. I
Yeah,
think that
that's
is
the best one.
Yeah.
That's also a good one. So Casie now faced with a decision. He's going to rip the swipe and say, I have Starfall for a big minion.
This is good. This is going to be a little bit painful for him, I think. Pavel can Circle of Healing, more arms, coin, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire.
Yep. So how does Casie bounce back from that then?
You're even good against Hidden Oasis as Pavel because you can just silence the 6/6 and push face again for 12.
So if you circle, it's 5 health.
You can put stuff in the way.
Oh my goodness.
And if you do,
this is not good for Casie. This is not good for Casie.
This is a risk that Casie took. He could have cleared this and delayed the quest for another turn, and it's just not going to pay off. It's such a specific hand, too. 14, by the way. I apologize. It's a 12.
Oh, this is bad. He knows that Pavel's only got 1 copy of Silence, but that Silence is there.
He's taking another 14 here.
I've got more left in me.
Circle of Healing you could use as a heal 1 here. Not sure how interested in that you are, but if you're going all in, is there ever a world where you're supposed to just get an extra health?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of how Casie wins. Like, I mean, Pavel, it was that one critical turn.
Of just swiping instead of...
He required Pavel to have these almost exact cards. He had to have Divine Spirit. He had to have Inner Fire. And he needed Circle.
Yeah, this happens a lot in Priest where they need to have like a 3-card hand for your play to get punished.
Casie needs help.
Second, Hidden Oasis, I'm thinking about. Buys you a turn, deals damage to the 14/14. I like holding the Circle of Healing for that second Hidden Oasis from Pavel's side. Innervate, Hidden Oasis still works.
He's got to clear with the Oasis Surger.
Yeah.
That Wrath was a big draw. Casie, you can see he looked comfortable and cool throughout that.
Is someone injured?
At 6 life, you are safe from reach because Priest doesn't have any. All of their reach is seated in board. And for Casie, this second Oasis Surger is a big problem for Casie.
Yeah, that Wrath was
for
a
Pavel.
huge pickup.
Yeah. In my head, I was trying to figure out if the Wrath did it or not, and I just was panicking, and I couldn't.
So there,
Casie dominates after a 14-14 connects versus his 6-6 and has a taunt in the way on Pavel's side, and Casie wins. Gallon, what's going on?
Casie ignored his quest. He focused on killing the board. He went Worthy Expedition turn 1, just got a Crystal Power, played that instead. Every single turn he focused on dealing with the board. Even the turn where he didn't really deal with the board, he still dealt with the board. He swiped the minion. Pavel had to commit something to deal with that. He had to play a Circle of Healing. If he didn't have that Circle of Healing, or if he did have that Circle of Healing, maybe the game would end up a little bit different. He could just take an off turn, trade, circle.
It feels so weird to me because this has been like thematic of Europe, where the matchup that's perceived to be the losing side continues to win. We saw it early on with Warrior versus Quest Druid. Warriors kept winning. We're seeing it now towards the later stage of the season where it's like Priest keeps getting queued up, It keeps losing. This is twice in a row now that Casie has defeated Priest just in this matchup. He did it with Shaman and Druid, but this is the 3rd time in a row he's defeated it with Druid and then Shaman and then Druid.
I think Casey's got something figured out.
Yeah, he does. So let's figure out something with Casie then. Casie, can you hear us?
Yes. How are you guys?
I'm doing fantastic, and I imagine you are too. You've gone 3-0 versus Priest from what is perceived to be the losing side of the matchup now, and I imagine that's got to feel pretty good to cap off this match here.
It feels amazing because now I'm basically safe and never relegate, so now I can take more risks. But seeing like people beating up Priest, or like basically Bunny and I, we have played that matchup so many times, and it's like it gets closer to 55 to 45% instead of 70 to 80% what people keep claiming that Druid never loses that matchup. But Loti is just insane early on. And like many other cards like Wrath, Oasis Searcher, either you kill the Priest really early on with Inner Fireplace, or you just, the Druid, or you just lose most of the time. Like all those matchups are really close. That's why you should not play decks like Mage. If you don't high roll really hard, you never win games against Shaman, Druid, Priest, or Warrior.
Wow.
I guess I have one question for you, Casie. So you are 4-0 versus Pavel. I just want to throw that out there. But secondly, you've been playing this matchup a lot. Based on the way that you played that, the Worthy Expedition turn 1, it just shows that you've been in this spot a ton of games. How do you feel about keeping Shield just by itself against Druid?
Shielding Druid, you mean? I don't want to say much about the protection.
No. I apologize. Keeping Power Word Shield. Just Power Word Shield versus Druid.
I think Power Word Shield is the single best card if you have any 1 or 2 drop.
Would you keep it by itself though?
On coin, yes. On play, no.
It's a good spot.
Man, y'all have very specific things.
Well, the reason that I want to bring that up is because there's just so many decisions that we didn't get to talk about that game, and one of them was Pavel threw away a shield on the coin.
Wow.
And I just couldn't, it was just too quick because these games go by very quickly. It was just something that I thought Casie would have an interesting opinion on.
I do want to ask about Shield, though. You mentioned the Protect on to Druid in this one. You sounded like you had an explanation. So I am curious about that one. We've been seeing mostly you and Bunny Hopper deviate from that. And you two being practice partners, I'm guessing y'all have some cool stuff figured out. But I want to hear your thoughts on the Protecting Druid versus Priest, because that's been pretty much, I think, the standard that we've seen across Grandmasters.
So I don't want to say much about it because Bunny is facing Pavel later this week. But
gotcha.
what I can say is, Bunny, I would say right now that I'm one of the best at Druid, and Bunny is one of the best at Shaman. This is a super comfort pick for us. This is the deck that we played the most. We love it, and we enjoy it a lot. Both of us, we hate Priest, we hate the Mirror, so we just try to get a little bit of an edge by playing the decks a little bit better. And yeah, that's what we figured out. That we just, both of us, Bunny and I, we played on the big stage a lot of times. Bunny more than I did, but we're both really nervous. Every single time before a match starts, we try to calm each other down in a Discord call, but we are really nervous. It's actually insane.
Well, how do you best calm yourself down in this one? Because Casie, I know you get fired up about competition. Win or lose, it's going to mean something to you, even if there's nothing at stake. So what for you works best to keep your nerves at bay?
Just play a game where I'm really bad at. Just talk about a game, just a different casual game. Just play something else, relax. And that's what we do, basically, play a game before.
Well, keep doing it, Casie, because it seems like it's been working. I think that you've been looking fantastic this season. Your play is looking immaculate, and now you finally are starting to put together a record to show for it as well. You sit at 6-5, and you have one more match this week, and I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Thank you. Have a nice day.